Good afternoon and welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical. I came across this tweet from William N. Hutton, and it follows on from what Charlie Robertson was saying yesterday. Time to puncture Farage and his swagger. The Brexit Party won 31.6% of the vote. The Lib Dems and Greens won 32.8%. Let's have a Lib Dem Green coalition ready to fight the Brexit Party in every seat in Britain. It would be bold, imaginative, and capture the imagination. I think he's right. China's state media dangles the threat of cutting rare earth exports to the US as a trade war counterstrike, potentially depriving Washington of a key resource used in everything from smartphones to military hardware. What struck me in this image that they posted is, look, Burundi. This could be Burundi's get out of jail card with the West. As I wrote on the weekend, the China-US trade war has turned ballistic, in my view. I think in particular that the baseline is that the trade war is headed off the charts into territory the market still continues to price as a tail risk. Markets across the world shivered in May, some caught a fever, and some on the periphery have become as delirious as victims of cerebral malaria. I said at the weekend the markets are still pricing in a benign, but much less benign than a month ago outcome. And I said we need to consider what a non-benign or maximum non-benign outcome looks like. And essentially, I think we'll come to that in a second. I also was speaking about the China emerging and frontier markets loop phenomenon, which I said had been super positive for more than 2 decades, but is now in a major trend change and has turned negative. And I added I would be adding to short positions in the Australian dollar because it is a global trade proxy and global trade is slowing, and the South African rand. I said the periphery will get smashed. The periphery will get smashed as we're seeing it unfold. I used Lusaka as the example of the periphery getting smashed. The rand is, I'm afraid, a proxy for global risk, and furthermore, South Africa's correlation with China is creating negative blowback, and we're at that moment where Cyril Ramaphosa has to convert rhetoric into action, which equals a perfect storm, and therefore I see it going above 15. Last time I checked, we're above 1480. This is a short-dated chart for you to look at. You can see that sharp move that's happened recently. You remember a couple of days ago I was quoting a Financial Times article in which it said when the Shanghai Composite slumped almost 6% to 2,906 points on the day, after Mr. Trump's latest trade war escalation, people briefed on the Chinese government response said the national team was told the line in the sand was 2,900. The next day, the Shanghai Composite rebounded. Look what happened today on the Shanghai Composite. Look at the levels. It seems that they are defending that. It's a red line. Australia's benchmark bond yield just dipped below the central bank's policy rate in the midst of a global bond rally. Treasuries are seen to be able to rally as low as 2% as trade war spurs global bond rally. Escalating US-China trade tensions and faltering growth have seen US 10-year yields tumble almost 40 basis points since mid-April to as low as 2.24% on Wednesday. Similar maturity yields in Australia and New Zealand both dropped to records in early Asian trading. The overarching theme of slower global growth, inflation not hitting the mark of central bank targets, and the uncertainty of a protracted trade war are all contributing to that rally. So that's what I meant when I was saying the markets had not priced it in. Now we're seeing them price in a less benign outcome. And basically, this is a trend we're seeing across the board. US 10-year yields are shown in this chart. Market expects further price increases in yield compression. Inflation in Venezuela topped 130,000%, according to the central bank. In 2017, inflation in Venezuela was 862.6%. In 2016, it was 274%. The central bank also reported that the country's GDP in the third quarter of 2018 fell by 22.5% year on year. This is a report in Sputnik. The long-lasting economic crisis in Venezuela has been aggravated by the financial and economic sanctions imposed on the country. And I was talking about Zimbabwe in January when I said the point I'm seeking to make is that there is a correlation between high inflation and revolutionary conditions, and I used Zimbabwe and said it's a classic example, but a more extreme one is Venezuela. 4th of February this year, I said Nicolas Maduro is, I'm afraid, going down, just like Muammar went down and as did Saddam. August last year, when Maduro was being attacked by a remote-controlled drone, I said Trump seems to be relishing his financial warfare strategies. May 2017, Venezuela is at breaking point. The point is the breaking point can take an eternity to happen. We're seeing similar pressure being applied to Iran. Hunter S. Thompson, The Edge. There is no honest way to explain it because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. And 1st of April, I was saying there's certainly a fin de siècle, even apocalyptic mood afoot. And I said the conundrum for those who wish to bet on the end of the world is this, however: what would be the point? The world would have ended. And that took me to the second coming, turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. There is no doubt in anybody's minds in Washington. We know who did this, and it's important Iran knows we know, said Ambassador John Bolton moments ago while speaking in Abu Dhabi. Attacks on 4 tankers docked off the Emirati port city of Fujairah earlier this month were caused by naval mines, almost certainly from Iran, he said. It's clear that Iran is behind the Fujairah attack. Who else would you think would be doing it? Someone from Nepal, he told journalists at the US embassy. There is no doubt in anybody's minds in Washington. We know who did this, and it's important Iran knows we know, he said. As I've said previously, Iran is a geopolitical bleeding edge. The level of financial and coercive sanction warfare is simply unprecedented. Trump has been a big proponent of coercive financial sanction warfare, and its expression vis-à-vis Iran is its apogee. Of particular concern, of course, is Iran's ability to block access or free passage in the Straits of Hormuz, the narrow choke point in the Persian Gulf through which 1/5 of the world's oil shipments pass. And I said they'll surely manage to shutter the straits, even if after an asymmetric fashion. And then the Houthis went and hit the east-west pipeline in order to block the uplift of oil outside that very narrow passageway. I concluded in my article, if the US thinks that Tehran will just roll over, which I think they do because of the unprecedented sanction warfare, I said if that is the case, they're exhibiting the same deluded ideas that they exhibited a day before the peacock throne got plucked.